Charles. Hey, Dave. Alright. Enough of that one. How are you guys doing? Play a little bit of maybe one more. Let some folks come in. We're going to work on some alternate picking today. I've got this picking etude. I'm kind of in this mode right now where I'm kind of working on my own alternate picking. I got hooked on these Andy Wood videos where he talks about cross picking, like bluegrass stuff. And I've been kind of mentioning them here and there over the last few live streams. And I thought I'd pull out an old piece of music I'd written several years ago. Whoops, that's actually the wrong one. That's the next one in the series. Where we can actually work on something that sounds like music, but gives us a really good, just straight alternate picking in one subdivision kind of thing. So we're going to do that. Hey, Mr. Jordan, Mr. Steve. I'm going to play just a little bit more, just because I want to, because I don't get to very much. One of these is not going to suck. Actually, one of these was... Hey, B flat. Me and my woman. Let's see this one. I don't know what this one's going to be. These are always pretty fun, though. Yeah. Can you guys hear everything okay? Hey, Bruce. Yeah. All right. Started kind of running out of ideas a little while ago, and I got a tune. How is everybody doing? It is good to see everybody, or so many everybody's here. It's kind of funny, like, I notice when I do these things, like, the worse my day is before I turn on the camera, usually the more fun the live stream is, whether it's the playing or the people that hang out or both. So I have to say I really appreciate all you guys today. I have a quick question for you. I notice, this has nothing to do with guitar, but it has everything to do with the channel. My friend Tom Straley does his live streams on the weekday mornings. Seems to have a lot of people. YouTube is telling me that one of the best times I could do these live streams is weekdays like 8 or 9 a.m. If you see a live stream tomorrow at 8 or 9 a.m., don't freak out. I'm just kind of curious. I'm waiting to see, like, if there are better times to do this. I might mess my schedule around a little bit. If there are better times for you guys who normally come at this time, or if this is really the best time for you, maybe make a comment. Like, let me know in the comments below, so that way I have an idea of, like, when this works the best. I've also got the Saturday morning one. I'm toying with the idea of making that one a little bit later in the morning. 8 a.m. in Los Angeles is not really the best time for a lot of folks, or me, especially if I start going back to playing gigs and stuff. So that's the deal. So let's talk a little bit about picking. Let's see if my little camera is going to freak out on me or not. Yeah, Saturday is usually 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Hopefully you guys can see this. All right, so first things first is when I when I'm picking, and this is one of those things that I spend a lot of time thinking about, because in 35 years or however many years of guitar playing, I've never been a good alternate or flat picker. All right. One of the things I've discovered is that if I use a smaller pick, this is essentially a Dunlop Jazz 3, and it's the Ultex material. It's small enough that when I hold it, you can just see just a little bit of that pick material sticking out. There's not too much of it sticking out. The more I have sticking out, and if I was to use like a regular Fender 351, here's got my pile of junk picks. All right, so here's a lovely Eventide pick. This is basically the Fender 351 size. All right, if I hold it like that where it's comfortable, there's a lot sticking out. And for me, that's kind of challenging because the point of the pick is far away from my hand. I feel like I don't have as much control. All right, I could choke up on it more. All right, I feel like I'm walking in someone else's shoes. Versus if I'm playing with this guy. All right, you can hear the difference. And part of the difference is just the fact that like the regular Fender 351 size and shape, this is not one of those, but it's basically that idea. It doesn't really have a pointy point. This feels like maybe a heavy or a medium, probably like a Fender heavy thickness. It's kind of rigid, but it really doesn't give me very much control. Right, it takes, and some of this is just, you know, you do get used to whatever you play through. And I've used picks from this. You know, for a while I was playing Fender like extra heavy 351s. I've used the various Tortex Dunlop picks like that. I've used I don't remember the name of it, but it looks like a little blue pill. It's super round. It's like 3 millimeters thick and a little pointy tip. And a couple of different kind of jazz picks. This one seems to be the best one for me, where not only can I pick and have a lot of control over where the point of the pick goes, but even when I'm playing rhythm guitar, there's not that much resistance, but I still have a lot of control. Now that comes from a couple things, and one of them is the idea that I'm just not trying to push that much material through the strings. Right, smaller point. This is like a little over 1 millimeter, maybe it's like 1.1 or something like that. If you guys know, whatever the thickness of a Fender or a Dunlop Jazz 3 is, that's what this is. So it's kind of heavy, but because it's pointy, it doesn't. It's not like I'm pushing a lot of material through the strings. Let's go back to my thing. So they make these in a couple different materials. There's the black kind, which is a material called Stiffo. And then there's also the red kind, which I've got one in here. There it is. All right. And that is nylon. And even though we're talking about picking, we're also going to kind of talk about tone. Right. So this is a nylon Jazz 3. It's also got some grip on it. I think this is some other variation of it. Max grip. But it's basically the same as the other ones. Right? So that sounds like that. Let me know if you guys can hear the difference. So there's the nylon. Here is the Stiffo. And then here is the Ultex. Alright. I like the Ultex the best. It's kind of funny because I don't hear as much of a difference. The Stiffo one seems like a little duller sounding versus this. Alright, and then the red one, it's kind of funny, and hopefully you can hear the difference, but it is a little brighter. And it's just because they're all different materials. So you got to find the thing that works best for you. Naturally, I prefer the pick that's impossible to find on the floor if you drop it. Like literally, if I drop this on a gig, or even if I drop it in my house, because we have all wood floors, it disappears. It's gone forever. Until someone steps on it, of course. But this is the one that works best for me. So I have the most control. And it works good for the single note stuff. It works good for the rhythm guitar stuff. So here's the black one. And then here is the nylon. And then back to this one, at least in the room or like when I'm hearing myself, this one just seems to have the best combination of it's got some low end, it's not super bright, but it has a little bit of attack to it too. Right? And then, you know, if you want to get a rounder sound, if you're playing jazz, You can always use the side of the pick too, right? Because that'll give you a different attack. Versus. So kind of food for thought. Now, there's a million ways to pick, and there's a whole series of these videos called "Cracking the Code" by a guy named Troy Grady, where he talks about pick slanting and all of the mechanics of picking, and he explains it with really good graphics, and it's. I'll try and remember to post a link to that stuff, or if you guys have a link to his channel. I've also been watching a lot of, like I said, Andy Wood. Andy Wood's cool thing is that he started as a mandolin player, and then when he started playing guitar, it was all bluegrass, like cross picking and Doc Watson and things like that. And then he gradually moved on to electric guitar later on. He had this incredible alternate picking technique that came from playing those other instruments. And he even says, like, he would learn music. He never really learned in an organized or structured fashion, but he would work on stuff in musical context. Like if he was working on like a cross-picking thing like this. I wonder if I can... Hopefully that didn't make too much of a bump. Right. He would put on a Doc Watson tune that has that kind of roll in it. And he would just do that for hours and just try and get it to sound good. Right. And that's definitely one way of learning this stuff. Right. So I'm 50 years old. I'm not a 14-year-old who has hours and hours and hours. So I always look for more efficient ways of working this stuff out. All right. So we're going to kind of do a little bit of that, but we also want to kind of talk a little bit about the pick mechanics. Some of the problems that I've had over the years. One of them is the fact that I never really understood the idea of pick slanting. Right. And the idea of pick slanting is that, like, say here's the string. So I can do this, right? You could have the pick downward or upward. And like as you come through the strings, right, you run into these issues where, you know, say I'm going down, up, right? I'm going down and then up. And that's easy because I'm going down on this string and I've cleared it, and then I'm going up here. So I'm picking in between. But if I started on an up pick, down, up, down, I'm sorry, up, down, up, I'd have to come down on that guy. Right? And sometimes if you're not careful, your pick will kind of travel through the string and come to rest against the next one, and then it'll be buried in it. And then, you know, if I play, right, do you guys hear that open G right there? Right, so I'm going down, up, down, up, down, up. And then I didn't clear the third string, so I accidentally hit that. All right, and in order to go up and then come back down on that next string, I've got to make a little bit more of a motion so I make the clearance. All right. A lot of people, you know, honestly, before the internet, a lot of people figured this stuff out on their own. I was just never that good at it. But the idea that maybe I need to, like, rotate my hand a little bit when I move through certain things, that never really occurred to me until lately. So a lot of the stuff I'm talking about is me in progress. You know, I'm still working on this stuff. You're going to hear me kind of flub through some things, but I'm also going to give you some of the things that have been working for me. My playing's changed a lot over the last several years, especially since I've been sitting here at home not working on gigs. I've had a lot of time to practice or pay attention to this stuff, so I've actually gotten a little bit better at some of this stuff. All right, my actual pick motion. All right, you can't really see my hand, but right now I'm trying to get as much wrist as possible and then keep it relaxed. One good exercise that works as a good warm-up is to try and tremolo pick. So you're just basically on one note, picking down and up, and trying to keep it nice and even. Keep the hand relaxed, and then speed it up. All right, that's hard. It took me forever to get to that point. And if I'm on a gig like right, that's me tensing up a little bit though. Right. Ideally, you want to be able to do all this stuff without any tension, and that's kind of where I still struggle. But as you get that motion built into your muscle memory, one of the things that happens is that you're able to play through stuff without thinking about it, and you're in that relaxed state. Right? And on some of the stuff, I'm halfway there. Right? Today I'm playing with a really clean sound. It's kind of a warts and all kind of lesson, and these you're going to hear where I'm struggling too, because honestly, the only way to work on this stuff is to be brutally honest and use the driest sound possible. If you can't hear where it's bad, you're never going to fix it. But it's pretty humbling, I will say that. Okay, so obviously you can do things like play scales. This is just a G major scale in this position. You know, you can alternate pick it, or you can do it in sequences, 1, 2, 3, 1. You can do it in groups of 4. There's all these things that we normally learn how to do, and that'll also make a good video, except for the fact there's a million things like that, and that honestly doesn't really ever help me. Like, it's good for warm-ups, but then when I play music, it doesn't make any sense for me. What does make sense for me, though, ends up being where I can actually play an idea in a musical context. All right, so we're going to take a look at this piece, and this piece is basically made up of a lot of arpeggio or chord tones. Actually, let's, I'll play through this one time here. I'm going to do it kind of slow. Now these pieces are all from probably about, I don't know, 12, 13, 14 years ago. I just finished my Foundations for Guitar book, and I thought, you know what, let's make a book of practice etudes, things that'll help people with the various bits of their technique that that are musical. They're little musical pieces. Like if you were learning how to play piano, you would have these things built into music. And we didn't, I mean, there's some of that stuff out there, but honestly, I wanted to do something that was kind of fun. So I wrote a ton of these things, and then got sidetracked and then lost the book, and then the hard drive on the computer was gone, and I thought it was gone. And then I was cleaning my bookshelves back here, and I found a binder full of the pieces. So this may end up coming back to haunt all of you as a book of exercises like this for various ways of picking through things. But this is one of the first ones that's actually a piece of music, and it's kind of nice and easy. And we start off real slow, and we talk about the repetitive motions that help us build muscle memory. And then we gradually talk about how to speed it up so you can do things at a reasonably higher speed. And that's part of this. So the first thing is this very first chord here. It's an E minor 7 chord. So let's... Man, I apologize for this camera. This thing always kind of bites, but I've noticed if I do it more like at that angle, maybe. All right, so Mark has a, or Bruce, sorry, has a pretty good question. Moving between strings, you're moving up and down. Right now, we're going to look at it like any, you're moving up and down relative to the time. So the strings don't really matter, right? So if I happen to be playing 3 notes per string, one of these is going to be, there we go. So if I'm playing 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, it's going to go down, up, down, up, down, up. All right. So any of these 3 note per string scales, where it's all 3 notes per string, every other string starts on an up pick. All right. If I'm playing that same scale but in one of the cage positions, sometimes we have strings where there's just two notes. So down, up, down. That string starts there. Up, down, then up here. Down, up, down, up, down. down, and then up, down. All right, and it's really a matter of just keeping this going. Now, when I teach rhythm guitar, it's all about subdividing time and making sure that you can feel the time. Like if we're playing eighth notes, so let's get a drum loop going here. So we'll set this thing at 80 beats a minute. All right, so if I'm playing 2, 3. When I'm strumming, I'm keeping the hand moving down on down beats and up on up beats, no matter what the rhythm is. Right? If I'm picking, right, when I've got mixed rhythms, I try and keep that going as much as possible. Right, and that way my single note playing ends up working just like my rhythm guitar playing. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on. Today's picking etude is strictly alternate picking. Everything's alternate pick, so it doesn't matter what string you're on or what kind of thing that you're playing. If it's on the down beat, or if it's the first half of the beat, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's going to be a down pick. And if it's on the and, it's going to be an up pick. So if I was to write this out, one of these will suffice. So let me write the counting on here. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. All right, we're picking down on all the counts here. And we're going to pick up, what's a good color? Let's go blue. On all the ands. All right, so as I play my way through this, you think I'd have these memorized by now. All right. I'm thinking down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. All right. Do it from this angle. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And as I play through the exercise, watch the picking hand now. You can see it's strictly alternating no matter what string it's on. All right, and that's kind of key to this sort of playing. We're just building muscle memory. If you took video of me on a gig and just focused on my hand, you would see that I don't play that way 100% of the time. Nobody does. But we do this stuff when we practice because we're building the structure that allows you to play in time without really thinking about it. And then if you need to do something for whatever technical issue you have, you can manipulate it or change it. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense to play that way. Sometimes it makes a lot of sense. But if you can do strict alternation like that, all of the rest of the kinds of picking, even things like sweep picking, all of that stuff gets a lot easier because you have just a lot more control over the pick. Right, and that's what I discovered. You know, I never really practiced sweep picking. It's not something I do very often. But one day after working on my alternate picking, I was like messing around with a student. I was like, holy cow, I can do this now. Right. What it has to do with the fact is that, you know, my basic motor skills have been kind of plugged in and are working a little bit more efficiently. So that's kind of the thing with this is this is a long way to go to answer your question about always picking up and down, but I'm going to be a little fascist about that with this exercise because this is actually where the training comes in. All right, so Okay, it's number 6. All right, so that's the first one, is the E minor arpeggio. And especially this E minor chord with, you know, some of the other notes added in. That's root, minor third, 5, minor 7, root, minor third, 5, minor third. So it's just all chord tones. All right, the next one here, this is a B7 chord. All right, and once again, 1 and 2 and 3 and green is down. All the numbers are down. All of the ands are up. Okay. So this one we're not starting on B, even though it's a B7. We're starting on the D sharp, which is the third of the chord. So this is the 6, 9, 7, 9. Now notice that I'm going first finger, fourth finger to keep this consistent with the position. Then I move up one to get there, because then the rest of this is easy to grab. Second finger on the 8, then 7, 10, 7, and that's first, then fourth finger, and then first again. Oops. It doesn't suck to take each one of these chord shapes. Just turn it into its own little exercise. Now, doing this with a metronome or the drum loop is really important. How about I start on the downbeat? 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Get the stuff so it's memorized. Don't be reading it. Once you memorize it, we can speed it up. The second and fourth measures of this are the same exact thing. So the first 4 bars of this are what we just learned. After that, now things change up a little bit. This is the part that always was difficult for me. We're going to be on a D7 chord here. Once again, so 1 and 2. It seems kind of silly that I'm writing all of this stuff in here, but the idea is I really want you to understand that there's a methodology to this. Actually, you know what? Crap. Oops. So same thing on this one too. Whoops. All those numbers are those guys, and then the ands are all the ups. If you struggle with an entire passage from this, break it up into 2 beats or 3 beat sections. That really helps too. So the D7 here. Now, here's the thing. I've got this written 9, 5 on the same string. To be honest, I kind of like doing this. Let's cross that guy out. And put the so it'll look like Alright, and part of that is that puts me in a position that's easier to get to the next measure. See if this helps with the... I gotta get a different camera. This is a really nice expensive webcam, and it's really sucking because it's trying to make too much use of the light here. Alright, so let's back up for a second. So here's that D7 instead of... Then I've got it's a bigger jump there. And then the G G minor here. Right, we're starting here on the G. All right, and the fingering here. Now here's the thing, we're talking about alternate picking, but honestly, making sure that your pathway on the fretboard makes sense is a big part of this. You know, it's about both hands. It's not just about what your right hand is doing. So in this case, we want to map this out. Let me turn off the metronome for a second. So that's the 3rd fret, 6th fret, and that's 1st and then 4. And then I have to jump up here. 1st fret, our first finger is going to be on the 5th fret on those 2 strings. And then 4th finger on 8. 7 is the 3rd finger. 8 is the 4th. And then that's the 6th. Because it puts me in position to play our D7 guy again. And that's the same part as before. Right, so if I was to play through this, here's the D7, G minor, D7. We'll get into the diminished lick for a second. So I'll do it one more time where you can just watch this hand. I'll go really slow. This G minor was always the hardest part for me when I was working on this. Okay, I'm going to pause for a second, give you guys a chance if you guys have any questions or issues. Also look to see if I missed anyone. So Dave, I did not know they made a carbon fiber version of the Jazz 3. I gotta try that and see what that's about. Although it's probably gray enough to be lost on every stage too. So. Okay. Looks like we're at, okay. So we have the next section. This is C diminished. Right, same idea. But there's something to think about here because the way this idea lays out on the fretboard also makes a difference in how we're able to execute it. So the thing with a fully diminished sound, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago in the chord construction harmonization lessons. This is what we call a starts with an S mark. All of the notes are equidistant from each other. They're all minor thirds here. All right, so which means that you have these patterns that repeat all the way through there. All right, so I end up having, there's a minor third, so it's 6, 9, 7, 8. And I have to come up here 8 and 10. That's a minor third right there too. And then 11, 8. If you watch, it's all 1, 4, 1, 4, 1. That guy's 3 and then 4, 1. Really make sure you get that fingering. It makes it a lot easier. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And then if we come back to here, this is the same idea. Down, up, down, up, down, up. Kind of scribbly, but Alex, I did see your question. I'll get back to it in just a second. So then this part here is also another one of those synchronized things, and this one mostly stays in one position. This one, so this is the measure we're just looking at: 10, 8, 11, 10, 8. Back to 10, and then you have to make a position shift up here at 11 to 14. This is like if Yngwie Malmsteen's going, or like that kind of deal. That's what this is. It regenerates. It's a man, my brain is completely blocked. So we'll come back to that in a second. So Alex had a question. I haven't seen Alex, Mr. Chili Dog, in a very long time. Someone who doesn't have the left hand dexterity to do this, but no trouble with the right hand, I would absolutely suggest this as an exercise, because we slow these things down and we build that left hand dexterity, right? This isn't about playing fast. You know, you can take this in little bits and pieces and put it together. Even like the beginning one, the first measure, the E minor arpeggio, you just take the first 4 notes, down, up, and make that an exercise. Practice that, and then practice the next 4 notes. Do it as slow as you need to get it accurate and to get it synchronized, and then put it all together. That's what these were designed to do, is give people who have never really played quickly or been able to play in time very easily something that they can do to build up to that. So this is actually perfect for that sort of thing, especially because when it comes down to it rhythmically, it's one rhythm all the way through. There is literally nothing that changes with the right hand except for what string you're picking. And that's kind of what makes it difficult. Most of this is based off of different kinds of chord arpeggios. All right, so you're working on this thing where you only have 1 or 2 notes per string. When we get down to the bottom here, though, this is actually literally, it's funny, I mentioned Yngwie a second ago. That is an Yngwie lick out of a million Yngwie songs. All right, and that diminished lick kind of starts at those last 11 and 14. And what you notice, you have a lot of notes, 12, 14, 15, 10, 14, 12, 11, all in one string. Do it from this angle. That's 11, 14, and you have to move up. Let's see. All right, so this is one of those great exercises for your hand because there's a little bit of position shift. You're in the 11th position, you come up to the 12th position, back to 11, and it's 1 finger per fret. So it works really good for that. And then that's where it ends actually. And then it's just 3 notes per string after that. All right, so that whole idea here, really slow. It's in the tab. You guys can remember there's a link to download the tab. So you're going from all of these arpeggios, right? And these actually are closer to like if you're playing pentatonic scales with 2 notes per string, right? Then like 3 note per string major and minor scales, right? But this part here, now we're back into the diatonic scale land, and that gives you something a little bit closer. So the whole thing, and I'll play the whole thing right now. I'll do it with the drum loop, actually. This way you can kind of see up close. 2, 3. Harmonic minor scale. Now, anybody who's studied these with me over the years knows that typically I get you to memorize this thing a chunk at a time, put it all together, and be able to execute it, 3 or 4 times in a row without making a mistake at 60 beats per minute. And then once you're able to do that, you've got it memorized to the point where we gradually bring the metronome up, 2, 3, 4 beats a minute, and repeat it. And once you can do it from memory without making a mistake at that tempo. You bring it up. And it takes people a while to get from 60 beats a minute, or even like 50 or 55 if they're really slow with it, up to probably 80, 85. But once you get there, it's kind of baked into your muscle memory. And then people see this big jump in their ability to play up to about like 135, 140. And then we start hitting where your actual physical limit is. And then most of my students, if they really work on this for a couple weeks, they can get up to 160, 165. I've had kids, have had a kid get up to like 185 or so. And the idea with this is basically just getting used to playing continuously in time. All right, I can take an idea like this. Let me just get like E rock backing track. So here's hard rock E backing track. All right, and you get used to this. And honestly, it's about just getting used to being able to play in time with the rhythm section. If you can get locked into that, the faster stuff becomes a lot easier. Now, there's a saying, practice makes perfect, which is complete crap. Practice makes permanent. And the difference there is that if you do something a million times, but you're not doing it correctly, if you're not doing it efficiently, you're just baking that into how you play. And that was the biggest problem for me, was that like I would do things hours and hours a day, not really realizing that I was, I was playing with a lot of tension, I was holding the pick weird, I was playing a note wrong in a scale, whatever. What you want to do is you practice this way. You think about slow makes smooth. If you can do it slow and you can think your way through it, you can do it accurately, right? And then smooth, once you get it smooth, that can make fast. Right? Because you're building muscle memory and motor skills. Right? Do you guys really think I think about every note name as I play through that harmonic minor scale like that? Or an altered dominant scale. Here's F, melodic minor. All of that stuff. Even really fast pentatonic scales, that stuff's all based off of muscle memory. And the way to get it so that it sounds good when you're playing it quicker is to play it slow enough that you know you're doing it right. You should never work or practice on something the tempo that it's supposed to be at until you can play at about half or 2/3 that speed correctly, and you know it's correct and accurate. I do this all the time. I have to fight myself over it. All my students do this all the time, and it's kind of a drag. But something like this little practice etude, it gives you some framework and some structure to practice with, and you can do it if you worked on it, 15-20 minutes a day for a while. You get pretty good at it, and what you would find is that these motor skills, they become just how you play, how you physically approach the instrument. All right, you work on this and then you play other things. Suddenly those other things are going to sound better, right? Because you're actually wiring up the motor skills in your nervous system to actually play those basic ideas correctly. And that comes, remember I was just talking about the fact that like I never worked on sweep picking. Right? I don't even really know very many sweep picking licks. Right? But I can do it. If I sat down and practiced or worked on it, I'd probably be pretty decent at it, but it's like not a sound I hear in my own voice or my own playing, so it's not really something I work on. But because all of these other things have been kind of worked on slowly and over time, and that's the other thing, is it takes a while. It takes like a lot of time and repetition to get good at this stuff. You just have to be patient with it. So let me back up. Oscar's major arpeggio shapes as exercises and insert them over 6 chords to make them useful. It's the Santana thing. Yeah, anything that you can do, like if I'm, it's funny, there's like major 7 chords, like I'm to like root 3, 7 root. I'll skip strings. I love that sound. Right, but getting used to being able to do that sort of thing in time is hard. And while I may not use that sound for a lot of stuff, the fact that I've worked on being able to skip strings with 2 notes per string means that when I'm playing faster pentatonic stuff, right, I'm actually able to pull that stuff off a little bit better, and that's because I've done something like what Oscar's talking about. Not the same thing. I would need to see what Oscar's exactly talking about, because you play a major 7th arpeggio shape over the 6 chord. So like, I'm assuming you're saying like C major 7 over an A. All right, maybe that sort of deal. You'll have to let me know if that's correct. Yes, this is 100%. 100% it. Now you can take this idea. I hate this backing track. It's really cheesy. But let's just continue to use it, right? So we're thinking 8th notes. Oh, that's not too loud. Right. Being able to play like that. That was kind of hard for me for a long time. Just playing straight 8th notes in scales and moving the notes. I'm not even playing the scale like straight up and down. I'm just playing bits and pieces of it. Right? You guys remember from the pentatonic scale lessons, like the 3 and 2, those kind of patterns. Right? You know, I'm able to play first the 8th notes in time with that, and then I can speed it up. But the trick is, it always has to be in a subdivision, so you have to get used to this feeling. So 8th notes, those are triplets. 16th notes. Right, that may be fast, but it's actually not super fast. It's not like Ingve fast, but because it's in time, right? Oops. Alright, it sounds like I'm playing really fast. I'm really not. But in time is always better. I mean, you can play as fast as you can, and there's this effect that happens where you're playing so fast we don't hear it's not in time. I'll do that with like legato stuff. That's a big 80s. Alright. People go, oh man, that was great. But the reality is that's totally out of control. Alright. And when you're actually trying to play stuff that's supposed to be melodic and it's supposed to actually have a good feel, it doesn't work. Or if I'm playing other styles of music. I've been working on the bluegrass stuff for my flat picking. Alright. And I could never do that stuff when all of my fast playing was the super fast stuff. It just never sat in the pocket. It took me a long time of making sure that my alternate picking actually locked in with the drums before I could do this. And I've got my guild back here. Like, I'll practice on the acoustic guitar. That's the other thing, is doing this stuff, you know, on the steel string, if you've got one, kind of ups the ante because you have to play harder. All right, so like with that Liberty, close enough. You guys hear that car out there? I want to go beat that guy. But being able to do that stuff on this guitar, it took me a while to get that. Once I was able to do it, it was a lot easier on the electric. All of the scale stuff, like practicing scales on a steel string acoustic with heavier strings, that helps a lot. Any of that bluegrass stuff, any of the flat picking, the Andy Wood stuff, he talks about the cross picking stuff. that ends up being kind of key to his alternate picking technique. I'm sure you guys can hear my dogs. Where did, here we go. All right, so I'm picking across 3 strings, down, up, down, up, down, up. If you watch him do it, he just goes like super, super quick, and he's really good at it, and it's really solid. But, you know, I practice this sort of thing, because what it helps me do is it helps me deal with the, remember we were talking about the pick slanting earlier on? Down, down, up, down, up, down, up, right? So in order for me to make this work, down, and then I have to come up, and then down on this string. If I go down here, on the first note, it kind of buries in that. So I have to kind of pick away from the guitar, and then up here, and I got to come back down and go down there. And then up, down, up. That's kind of the same thing, up. And down is easy, because when you go up, you just come right down in the string, but now I'm buried in that string. I need to go up here, so down, down, up, down. I gotta be able to come back up. Being able to do that with any consistency and any endurance and any accuracy, that's kind of become my new thing. And in this video, you talk about like, you know, make a little exercise out of it, or like banjo rolls. Like that sort of deal. I've always been better at it playing hybrid picking. But doing it flat pick is really hard, and that's kind of one of my changing the pattern around is really hard for me too. But I'll get there. Okay, so I'm gonna open up to questions. I've kind of talked about a lot of the stuff I wanted to talk about today. There is a link underneath this video, so you can get the PDF of this if you want to practice it. The next one of these lessons, we're going to do the next etudes. So there's going to be a couple of these that we're going to do. There's 2 of them that are 8th notes. The next one's got a lot of string skipping. Let's see. Some like wide stretches. See. Took me a second. It's been a decade since I played these, so I'm trying to remember them. But you work on this stuff. There's some kind of cool vocabulary that you can kind of incorporate into your lead playing. That one, it's got the string skipping, but it's also got double notes per string, and it's got position shifts, things like that. We're going from the G on the 3rd fret up to the F on the 8th fret. So being able to do that stuff without actually having to stop the picking hand, that's also kind of important, right? We never want your left hand keeping the right hand from keeping the time going. So, okay, questions? Let's see. Let me butcher another bluegrass tune. Slack key playing. I do not. I'm not a slack key guy. I barely play any open tunings, but like the slack key stuff, there's a lot of stuff I don't do. I've got a pretty wide palette, but like there's parts of like I can do a little bit of a lot of stuff, but there's some things I can't do any of. So I'm a terrible bluegrass player, but the reality is when I work on stuff like that, it totally informs and helps my other playing. So I'm gonna pause there for a minute. I was thinking maybe tomorrow morning I might just do a really easy lesson on hammer and pull-offs, just to kind of talk about that, just to kind of test the waters on the morning thing. So it'll probably be 9 a.m. Pacific time or LA time, 9 to 10, and then I think I've got a in-person student. I am taking suggestions for lessons. I've got a number of people that are really interested in some Albert King stuff. So there's probably going to be a transcription of which tune are they asking me for? Sorry, guys. Let me think for a second. No problem. Thanks, Mark. Give me a second. I'm thinking here. Comments. I'll play the blues for you. I've had a couple of people ask for that in the comments. I was originally going to do. There was also Going Down by Freddie King. I thought that might be fun and an easy one to do, but people really want Albert King. Rich. Hammer-ons and pull-offs are kind of one of the things that people have the most difficulty with, because you can't really see what the motion is. Right. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. The stronger your hands are for doing that sort of thing, the easier it is to play a lot of stuff. So I'll do that. If you're available, cool. If not, you can always catch it on the replay. Something from Live Wire Blues Power. I can look. That's the thing is, I will look at all of these things. I just want to make sure that I've had a couple people ask for the same tune, and I think that tune is on Blues Power. Let's check for a second. Oh, it's literally from I'll Play the Blues From You. I was thinking of a different tune then. All right. Anyway, I'm not gonna do like an entire 3-minute solo or anything like that, but I'll do some cool chunks out of it. So cool. All right. Anything else, guys? I'm at your service for a few more minutes. This guitar is totally out of tune. My guitars don't particularly like the garage when the weather gets. It's not cold here, but it's like cold enough outside that when they come in from the house, they get a little weirded out. So we'll see. Anyway, I guess I'll let you guys roll. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. You'll get notice on when we do these. I usually do them twice a week, but like I said, we're kind of messing with the time schedule. Hit the notification bell so that you know when this actually does happen. Please give me a thumbs up. All that stuff, all that interactivity actually kind of helps me with building the channel, so I do appreciate it. And I will see you guys, if not tomorrow, I'll see you guys on Saturday or next week. Thanks a lot.